So I really want to like Dave Ramsey. But my beef with Dave Ramsey is he's very focused on the message of spend less money and you'll have more money. Now that's all well and good if you want to get rich in 60 years. But in this video, I'm going to tell you my experience of how anyone can go from average or anyone can go from zero to making their first $1 million. Now, this is something I truly believe everyone can do. But I want to preface this, and I want to say that it's going to actually take time and it's actually going to take work. So let's start with the 3 ways that you can get paid in life. Now, we're not going to discuss different business models or different business opportunities here. We're going to talk about the 3 different ways that you can get paid in your life. So level 1 is you're paid for your time. Level 2 is you're paid based on your production and what you bring in. And level 3 is you have a business and you provide some sort of service or some sort of product or value to X, Y, or Z marketplace. Now, I started out when I was 18, 19 years old, messing around with all the different online business models. And I never got any of them to work because I switched from thing to thing to thing to thing. Now, when I was 19, I was working at Jersey Mike's sandwich shop over the summer. I was getting paid about $7 or $8 or $9 an hour. I can't even remember. And I remember working for a full month and I made $500. And I took that money that I made from that job after I got fired. And I took the money I made from the job and I invested it into throwing parties at my university. That's all I'll say. And that's how I made my money at the time. Was I would have parties and I would charge people at the door, and I was able to pay electricity and bills and buy clothes and buy food and things like that. So I ended up doing a brief stint in commission-only sales as basically what's now known as an appointment setter. I made another video on that a while ago called Why Appointment Setting is a Scam. And I was working in a wealth management financial advisory office, and I never bothered getting the licensing exams because I just thought it was going to be a waste of time and I knew I wasn't going to do this. But what I learned was very valuable information about sales, and I learned how to sell, how to make cold calls. I learned the Sandler method of selling, which I don't use, but I can recognize when it is being used. It's still a decent methodology to learn. I think there's better methodologies like mine out there now. But basically, there's really only a few ways that you can become successful. And they stem from level 2 and level 3 of this, I guess we'll call it like a little pyramid. So level 1, you have a job. And when you're working a job, you get paid per hour. You're not getting paid more. You might get a little bit of a raise, a 20-cent raise, like all these people do, or you might get a few extra $1,000s a year. Now, after you pay taxes, after they take everything out of your paycheck for contributions, stock options, things like that, you actually end up with about 50% or 40% of whatever you make. Now, I saw this growing up because I remember my mom was making, I ran her numbers one time and she was making $60,000 a year. And then I realized that we were living throughout my entire life on about 20 grand, 16 grand, something like that. So with a job should only be temporary. A job should put you in a position to develop the skills that you can use and that you can leverage into the next opportunity. Showing up to work on time, not being late, making sure you're doing a good job, and learning as much as you can from the opportunity. And so when you get a job, I want you guys to really understand that you have to take it with a grain of salt. You know it's going to suck. You know, hopefully you're not going to be there forever, but you have to learn about the industry that you work in. You can learn from the people who are better than you, who are managers, who are, maybe even you're working with the business owner. And so take every job with a grain of salt. And I see a lot of people switch positions, but with jobs, you want to make sure that you're in a world, or you're in a industry, or you're in a field where there could potentially be some upward mobility. There could be something to learn, and you're not just sitting in the back of a restaurant washing dishes, or like I was at 20, moving kegs in Chinatown in Philly from 3 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. for like 80 to $100, maybe. I think $100 was the most I ever got paid there in one night. So that is level 1. Now level 2 is being paid based on production, being paid on what you bring in. This is inherently, it's a sales role. And if you don't want to be in sales, I know a lot of you might be introverted, a lot of you might not have the confidence or the skill set or the business experience or business acumen to get into sales, but I recommend that everyone should learn sales, because sales was the fundamental backbone of basically my whole career as an entrepreneur, my whole career previously before I did that. And, selling products online with e-commerce is cool, but if you're able to sell, you're always going to be able to make money. You'll never be broke again. You'll join the NBA, never broke again. So if you're working in a job, let's say you go from a $10 to $20 an hour job, I would recommend that you transition into some sort of sales role. Now, there's a big difference between good and bad sales roles. There's the commission-only door-to-door thing, which some people can make money, some people don't make money. There's the taking calls from your bedroom as a closer, whatever. And then there's also what I recommend, which is either enterprise sales or some sort of sales role where you're paid a base salary and you are able to learn from people who are very good at what they do, absolute killers. And I think if you take one of those roles where it's a base salary, maybe it's a $15, $20 an hour thing plus commission, I think what's going to happen to you is you're going to realize, okay, I'm good, I can pay my bills, but how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 months in that sales role? Now, what you're going to find in corporate sales, and I was in loan sales back in the day, and I worked for a very big company. But what you're going to find in these environments is you're going to find guys who are really, really, really good, and you're going to find guys who are really bad or who are just comfortable with being mediocre. And so the way that you become successful in one of these boiler room sales jobs is you go and you find the top 3 to 5 people and you learn from them. You just straight up ask them, can I learn from you? Can you teach me what you're doing? Because I'm new, I want to be the best, I want to be very good, I want to make money. And so that's what I would recommend. Now, enterprise sales, the deal cycle is a lot longer. Tech sales, the deal cycle is a lot longer, and you might get paid less. But the experience with you cold calling people on the phone and trying to sell them something builds a metric fuck ton of character. It built my character. It built my experience. And all of the things that I teach now in these videos, inside of the course, inside of all of my stuff, is fundamentally based on my sales experience that I developed while I was in corporate sales. So that's what I recommend. What also you're going to find with these opportunities is simply this. It's going to be very hard unless you're there for years and years and years and years and years for you to make more than, let's say, 200 to 300 grand a year. Now, again, like I said with level 1 with working a job, when you factor in all of the expenses, the stock options, the contributions, you're left with about half. So keep that in mind. And then on top of your bills, on top of your utilities, your car, all that stuff, the place you rent and everything like that, you're going to be left with about 15 to 20% of whatever that you make per year. It's very hard with a set commission structure. It's very hard to increase your level of income to the point where you really want it to be. It's hard to go and say, okay, well, this week I'm going to make 20,000 in commission. So there are other opportunities where you can do things like that. I mean, a lot of the online stuff, you can do that. It's very rare, but you have to be able to understand that you're just in this production role, again, for experience. And so realistically, how anyone can go from average or broke to making their first $1 million is you need to understand it's going to take a few years. You're going to have to go through these trials and tribulations with working a job and sitting there and knowing that your life sucks. You're going to have to go through the experience of sitting on the sales floor 12 to 14, 15 hours a day and really getting after it and really having that hustle and really having that drive to be as good as you can possibly be and become the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. It's going to teach you to endure rejection. It's going to teach you to endure the negativity, the hardship, the struggle, the emotional control that you develop from being in a sales role where you're highly incentivized by commission is one of the most beautiful things I think every single man or even women, I don't know how many women I have watching this channel or videos, but it's going to teach you a lot about yourself. And it's a very beautiful experience. It's one of the most beautiful experiences that you can have. not only are you going to make money and go from how I did, from having $20 in my bank account to making low $100,000 a year, about $150,000 a year is what I was making when I was 22 years old. It's going to teach you a lot about life. And so what I also want you to understand is that when you're given an opportunity, you have to make the most out of that opportunity. You have to seize the opportunity. You have to seize the day. Every single minute, every single hour, every single day, you have to do your best. Because other people, if you don't have that, other people around you will know that not only you're not going to make it, but they're also going to know that you don't have what it takes to be successful. And you really have to thug it out. You really have to grind. And I think now we'll get into level 3. Because that message of level 1 and level 2, you have to go through this experience. If you don't go through this experience, what ends up happening is you become someone who thinks everything is easy. Everything is just going to be given to them. There's a few people that maybe they go through life and they have an incredible opportunity and they go from basically 0 to 200 grand or 0 to $500,000 in the span of a year, or they make more money than that, or they hit a crypto pump, or they do one of these other things. But you have to understand that if you want to actually build sustainable wealth and sustainable cash flow, you need to go through the struggle. Everyone starts at a different place, but everyone who I know, and I know a lot of people who are very successful, have gone through, especially if they're self-made, have gone through this multi-year long struggle where they didn't think it was going to work, where they didn't believe in themselves, where they weren't confident, where they had some sort of mental block or barrier that was holding them back from being the person that they are today. Everyone goes through it. So my advice to you is you have to go through those levels as fast as possible. Once you get your first 30,000 cold calls under your belt, I think you'll probably be better than the guy who's just starting out. You're going to be more experienced. And so learn from the right people, learn from the right mentors that are available. And then also, every single industry that you do business with, especially in a sales role or even in your job, take as much as you can. Learn how the business works. Learn how things are managed. Learn how the operations work. Because what's going to happen is when you start to get into level 3, you're going to be able to use all of that reference experience and move forward with an idea of how you can actually provide value to different types of marketplaces because you have firsthand industry experience. So level 3 is starting a business or providing some sort of value to some marketplace. Now, you are not paid in accordance with your time. You're sort of paid in accordance with your production because as the CEO, actually, I'm not going to use the word CEO because if you don't have a board of directors, if you don't have stakeholders and shareholders and investors, you're not a CEO. If you're the owner or operator of your solo business, you're paid based on the production that you bring in. The best way to go about this is to simply drive revenue into the business. If you're a founder, if you're an operator, if you're an owner of a business, if you're a wantrepreneur or an entrepreneur that's just starting out with an agency, with e-commerce, with whatever it may be, you need to figure out ways to acquire customers. So when you build a business, this is something that I did after I had years and years of experience. But when you build a business, what ends up happening is you have up months and you have down months, especially when you're just starting out. Because if you're just starting out, you might have a big month where you make, let's say, $10,000, relatively, right? Big month. Then you might have a month where you lose all your clients and then you're back to 0. Or then you go to 2K, then you go to 3K, then you go to 5K, and then you go to 30K. Or then you double the entire revenue of the business or triple the revenue of the business, and then you have a $100,000 month, and then the next month it drips off back to like 20. So the sales experience and all of the emotional control that you developed in your stint in level 1 and level 2, what ends up happening is you start to realize how to manage your emotions and how to continue doing what actually drives the revenue needle in your business. You have to bring money in. You have to go out and you have to get the money. I made a video a while ago called How to Make Your First 100K, and you have to go out and get the fucking money. That is your sole job as a business owner. And so not everyone can start a business, but I think everyone has the opportunity, especially here in 2024 as I record this, everyone has the opportunity to increase their income some way. whether it's starting a side hustle, whether it's starting a side agency, some sort of business, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's whatever it may be. You have to make sure that you're constantly on the way up. Because if you're not, and you're in a state of stagnation, what ends up happening is you get lapped and you get passed by all these other people who just simply want it more than you, who have that tunnel vision. And so realistically, let's talk about quickly what the income level looks like. So when you're working a job, expect to make anywhere from like $5,000 to, let's say, $20,000, $30,000 per year gross. If you transition into a sales role, let's say you make 20 grand in base commission, and then, or not base commission, in base salary, and then you make 100 grand in commissions. What you want to do is you want to stack that money, you want to get your money right, you want to upgrade your lifestyle, you want to feel better about yourself, but you want to avoid the golden handcuffs. And then you want to make sure you're being smart with the money that you make. And like I said, this is going to take a while. Some people get it faster than others, but if it's taking longer for you, it'll still happen. It just takes longer. You're on a different path. So that being said, when you get into business, you're going to now have to replicate, especially if you go full time, you're going to have to replicate going from zero again. Because in the sales job, let's say you were making 100 grand a year, you're back to zero now. So now you have to not only replicate that income faster than you did before, but you get to do it faster with all of the industry experience that you have, all of the skill stacks that you've built. And so let's say year one, realistically in business in year one, you might make 100,000. You might even be even or make less than what you did before. But then in year two, you make 200. In year three, you make 600. Year four, you make 1.3 million. And this methodology of just tunnel vision on what you want and tunnel vision on living the life that you want to live and knowing that you want to be rich one day, or you want to make money, or you want to make a certain amount of money, you are then able to go from being an average person to making your first $1 million with just sheer work ethic, with just knowing and understanding the fact that this stuff takes time, with knowing that you might be broke and have to really slum it for a while, or you might have a big month and then what happens is it might all go to zero tomorrow. So these are some ideas that I've always thought about because I've lived it. I went from being 19 years old, working at a sandwich shop, to the next year working in a bar for 12 hours and barely making any money, to being 21, graduating college with $20 to my name, straight to 150 grand a year. Then when I left, went back to zero, and then as soon as I started my business, I went from zero to $10,000 in profit in my first 20-something days. And then I made more money, and then I made more money, and then I made more money. It's taken me about 3 years of being in business for myself to get to where I am today. I got it a lot faster than other people. Some guys get it in 6 months or a year and a half, depending on what they do. For you, it might take 6 years. But if you're watching this and you're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, you're younger than I am before I even had any of the experience that I have. So you're in a better position than me, and you're luckier than me, because now I'm sitting here in front of this camera making this video for you. I want you to really take these lessons. And remember, level 1, you have a job. If you have no money coming in, you get a job. If you have a little bit of money and you want to take a risk on yourself and build these skill stacks and build this business acumen and get industry experience and start to make even more money where you're paid based on your production, get into sales. Make sure that you're also, when you're getting these opportunities, make sure that you're working in the right opportunities. Either you're working with a founder who is sharp, who is really about it, or you're working for a corporate company where you got health benefits, you got dental, you got vision insurance, you got all of these different things that you can take advantage of while you're on your way up. And then you're going to get to a point where you see that you're stagnated and you see that you are just in a position in your life, like I was when I was 23 years old, where you hate every single day. You know that you need to do something different. And that's when you say, fuck it, and go all in on yourself, provide value to X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, marketplace, and you go all in on yourself and you build your own business, you build your own thing, or you start hustling something on the side. And then you make sure you're keeping your money right, You're not blowing everything, like I say, on Gucci and Louis Vuitton. You're not blowing all your money that you have. You're putting the money in the right places. You're putting it into smart opportunities and smart investments. You're leveling up your life. And then when you look back and you're my age and you're 26 or you're 27 or you're 30 and you've made over $1 million, you're going to be very happy with yourself. I'll see you guys in the next video.